All right, guys, so I did some experimenting with the different language models for building a reader app in next.js with shadcn, radix, and tailwind using the same prompt, or at least almost the same prompt. I'll get into that. But one thing that I discovered was that actually you can't use most of these models in Composer. You basically are limited to the cloud models and GPT 4.0 and O3 Mini. Even if you use API keys, you're limited. So those are the ones I'm going to go through. And first, I'll show you what my prompt was. I'm using a notepad for this, and basically I detailed the tech stack, which matches my package.json file, or at least the main tech stack. My coding guidelines, such as concise code, UI guidelines, um, you know what what frameworks I want to use and stuff. I did want a navigation bar or a drawer menu and dark mode toggle. For pages, I wanted a home page, a library, a book detail page, a chapter detail page, and a reader view. All of the models skipped the chapter detail page. I guess they got confused, and that's fine. It wasn't a big deal to me. But the actual prompt looks like this. I referred to the book reader prompt here. I also, I guess I indexed the latest shadcn documentation, and I referred to that. I also pre-populated I added all of the components, all of the shadcn components into the components folder. So before this, I was using a lot of Haiku actually, which maybe was a mistake, but with Haiku at least, and not having the components pre-populated and referring to the documentation, it was trying to use like an older version of shadcn and making some mistakes. So I don't know if one is more important than the other. Probably having the components is more important, but now I'm doing both and I'm not really having any issues with that. So that's been good. And then I am referring to the books folder, which except actually with Haiku, I didn't do this yet, but with the other models I did end up pre-populating the images folder with a books folder of AI generated images for different books. I don't know that the models were actually reading the images themselves as much as just the name of the image, but the names are obviously of real books. So there's that. And then finally, the final context I gave it was the source folder, which, as you can see, includes these shadcn components. But other than that, it's pretty much a basic install with the page and layout globals, and it will look like this. So using that prompt, I prompted Haiku, O3 Mini, Sonnet 3.7, and Sonnet 3.7 Thinking. And we're going to go through all of them, and you're going to see the results of this. So the first one actually would have been GPT 4.0, which I did. And I did 3 requests, and then I abandoned it, I believe. But basically, it was trying to do a lot of conversation. It was almost like working in chat. It was just kind of creating a plan, and then it was like, do you want me to continue with this or that? And then I said, please continue, and it just continued planning. And it wasn't actually really implementing. It did eventually give me code to copy over. I don't know if Cursor is not working well with it or not, but it wouldn't apply it automatically. But I was able to copy code over, and I didn't even bother because it just looked pretty bad. It even tried to build a React project instead of a Next.js one. So I'm not even going to consider that one. So we're going to go right into O3 Mini, and I will pause the video and come back with that ready. Okay, we're in O3 Mini, and to look at the structure, we have a new library folder and a book folder with a reader inside of it. And then it created some components in the main components folder, which I guess I don't actually like that. They probably could have gone deeper. And this is the result. We have a broken dark mode, not very pretty. A basic homepage, fine. Okay, so this was the first impressive thing, that it was able to take the source, the book images folder as context to create all these books. And we have our library, very basic though, very basic grid view. No list view, which I asked for. And this is the book detail page. It looks like something out of the 90s. Pretty basic, but it was able to extrapolate, The Hobbit was written by Tolkien, it's about Bilbo Baggins. These are probably even the real chapters. It's been a long time since I read it, so I don't remember. And the reader view had an error, and I decided not to follow through because actually this was one of the last models I tried, and it was so unimpressive from a UI standpoint in comparison that I didn't even bother. So with the other ones, some of them I did have errors and I would fix them, and I'll talk about that too. But this one I gave up on. So let's move on to Haiku. Actually, before moving on to Haiku, I'll just give a little bit more information. I did 2 requests and then abandoned the O3 Mini. Let's see, it actually did take in context from my project rules, which I was starting to suspect that maybe a lot of these AIs were not really actually doing that. And Cursor wasn't really, Cursor seems to suggest that each prompt is going to take this into account, but they don't seem to always do that. So that's why I included some of my more important project rules right in this prompt and referred to it directly. But anyway, it did obey some of those project rules that were not in my actual prompt, which was interesting. It imported styles in the wrong directory. It was a quick fix. I think, yeah, the next.js structure wasn't quite right. I might be wrong about that. And then, yeah, it wasn't that great. So we are going to Haiku. And this one took me 10 requests. But if you know anything about Cursor, and I've been tracking the usage, I'm using a lot of requests for this experiment. I didn't use a whole total of 172 for this experiment, but I did use a lot. And most of these premium models will be one request, 1-for-1, but Haiku is 1/3 of a premium request. So that's why I was hoping Haiku would be more performant, because it's cheaper, essentially. All right, so for the code of Haiku, we have basically everything is in the reader. I like this structure, I think, better. And I also didn't have zustand installed at this point, and I didn't have the books folder populated with images yet, the images books folder. So it did create reader context. Later, I did update the prompt to say that if you are going to use client-side React state management, use zustand. And then the other ones did obey that. But taking a look at it, it did not create a home page. It did create a reader page. So we have to go to that. And here we are. So it actually did placeholder images from placeholder.com, which is not a real image placeholder site. So I ended up having to switch it into a different site. But it did have, this is the library. We have basic quick search, we have filtering, and we have a list view. And here's the reader detail, or the book detail view. Pretty clean, pretty basic, not a lot of features. You can see we're using shadcn components. The chapters was just a list of chapters in a modal, which is an interesting solution. Not exactly what I want. And the reader view looks like this. We have our audio player I requested. Obviously, that's not working exactly. I don't mind the icon, but this is a little bit strange as a progress bar. I don't think that's what we really want. Nice and clean, pretty much full screen. I kind of like that. This, I do like these icons and their abilities. I think it's pretty cool. It's just scrolling. We don't have pagination, but I didn't really request it in this initial prompt. Theming is really nice. Got chapter selection, which doesn't exactly work, and the search doesn't work either. But some nice things here. I might like this toolbar better than in the other models. So coming back to my notes, it doesn't complete everything in one go. I did have to do 10 total requests. I think that was something like 3 initial requests where you do the initial prompt and then you say continue twice to get it to finish the project. And then I did probably like 3 refinement prompts, and then, which I didn't do with the other models. And then I did 3 prompts for fixing the errors. So it definitely produced errors that it didn't automatically fix. And this one, previously I used Sonnet, and Sonnet was able to actually generate placeholder images in the directory itself, which was very interesting. But they weren't like, they were just empty images. And then for the UI, you know what, you're seeing the UI, so I won't show you those notes. But mainly those are my coding notes. So now we will switch over to 3.7. And yeah. Okay, in Sonnet 3.7, this is our layout. We have actually a zustand store, which was actually pretty clean and easy to read and works. We have our shared components, which again, probably some of these could have gone in the subfolders. We have a read folder, a library folder, and a book folder. I think I like that. Yeah. All right, I guess I won't tease you too much longer. This is what it looks like. Well, let me go to my notes and let's talk about it first, and then we'll go into it. So this one actually took a total of 21 requests. I think the main reason was it was having issues connecting to Anthropic. 3.7 launched yesterday, which is when I built all of this. And so I'm just guessing that there was just too much demand. It did seem like sometimes a single prompt costed more than one, probably because of the timeouts. Because I think I did only about 10 initial requests. And because it kept timing out, I kept having to do continue. I suspect that if there weren't timeout issues, it would have only taken 3 or 4 requests to do the initial build. And then I did have 3 errors that occur, basically the same error 3 times, which was able to be fixed with 1 prompt. And those errors actually didn't break the site anyway. So for the UI, I can say that this one was the best out of the box. So it basically is a full app already ready to go. Very impressive. One of the things I asked it to do was prioritize micro interactions, and we got some of that going on right here. The homepage is quite nice. It's got features. I mean, I probably wouldn't even have this on the actual homepage, but we have a dark mode toggle, which is slightly awkward because it's 3 clicks, because one of them is system. We have a start reading, which is just going to open up the first book in the list, I guess, which is interesting. And then we have the library, and this looks quite clean. This is the grid view. We have a list view as well, which I think also looks pretty clean. And of course, everything is responsive. We have a book search, very fast. Categories, sorts, all quite nice. Let's go to the book detail. Okay, we have our book detail view, which is pretty filled out. And we have a continue reading button, an add to favorites thing, which is actually, that's just a zustand, not really what I would want in a real app. You'd probably want a favorites page, but this is just, you know, saving the fact that this is in the favorites. We have a progress bar, which actually does work, and we have the chapters. There was an issue with the continue reading. It's using a global continue reading thing. So if I was reading a different book previously, then this will actually open up a 404 because it's going to try to open up the chapter of a different book. But that could be fixed pretty easily. We have our chapters, so I'm going to go into chapter 1. And here we are. a pretty clean view, and again, not pagination, it just kind of goes to the next chapter. This is really odd. You click anywhere and it opens up the settings. That's kind of a strange interaction, but it does have a pretty cool looking settings bar where we can adjust the font size, the font style. The theming is really nice. And the layout, the margins don't do anything, but the line spacing does. So that is it. Okay, now we're on the final one, Claude 3.7 Thinking. Sorry, Sonnet 3.7 Thinking. And you can see that this one also created a zustand store, a little bit more complex with lots of interfaces. I requested interfaces over types. It's using persist. It's got some other stuff going on there. We got books, library, reader, and then all of the shared components are in the components library. Again, these probably could have been put in the actual folders, but that's okay. So as far as the notes go, this took a total of 3 requests. They did take longer than the other models to complete each request by a little bit, but it only took 2 initial requests. And then I thought there were no errors, but there actually was, I think, some minor error, and I had to fix it with 1 request. So 3 total requests, not bad. And yeah, also each request maxed out. Each of the first 2 requests basically, well, the first request anyway, maxed out the tool request, which is you can have up to 25 tool requests. And I think that's good. I mean, I think you want to be efficient by having as many tool requests as possible per request. There were basically no errors. It used the zustand correctly. Seemed to be worth the extra time. All right, let's take a look at the UI. The homepage I actually like better than the previous one, I think, because it's actually closer to what I wanted as a base for something very simple. You can see there are some margin padding issues right there. Our dark mode is a drop down now, and we can check out the library. Here you can see more padding and margin issues, but we have a list view with more details. We have favoriting here, read versus continue, because this one has already had some completion. So that's quite interesting. We do have search, which works very quickly. Filters are here. They're all classics. We have sort, and we do have a grid view, which is very tall. Probably, yeah, a bit taller. Each image is a bit taller than I would want, or each card is a bit taller than I would want. We do have micro interactions. Let's take a look at one of these. Let's take a look at the Hobbit. Yeah, so we can continue reading from here, or we can open up the book detail page, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, the book detail page has a bit more going on, I think, and the favorites actually looks not quite as good as in the other model, but it's fine. A lot of things you can see look similar. Again, margin padding issues, alignment issues, but not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and open up this chapter. And this is probably my favorite reader view. We have a nice, clean, open, full screen situation. We still have the top bar. Oh, I want to go back and show you something about that in a bit. We have Kindle style progress. We have volume, which I don't know why they don't have an audio player if they're going to have volume. I requested an audio player, which obviously would be a tough thing. Oh, it automatically hides. After like 5 seconds, every time I move my mouse, it shows again. We have a progress bar on the bottom. I really like that. And we have settings. These settings are quite nice because, yeah, it's all with one icon. So that's kind of nice. The theming doesn't work. And just to go back to the home page real quick, or actually the library, you can see the toolbar at the top, or the nav bar is slightly translucent, which is a nice touch. So yeah, that is Sonnet 3.7 thinking. Not a bad base, maybe doing a little bit too much, but yeah, honestly, I don't know which one all right, so let's look at takeaways. So I would say that if I'm starting a new project, I would definitely use one of these two. I guess maybe I would be tempted more to use this one because it was better out of the box, and then you can always make modifications from there. Whereas this one did include a few additional features that were kind of impressive, but then it lacked on some layout issues and stuff like that. Haiku is still worth using for basic things, I think, if you want to save money. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to probably continue experimenting between these two, but when I build new projects, they're pretty similar. Um, I will use one of them for building the foundation, and then maybe for some of the initial refinements, I'll continue using them. And then once I'm at a certain point where I feel like, all right, we're kind of dealing with some pretty detailed code, then I might just switch to Haiku. And then only if I have issues, probably come back and use 3.7. Thinking is I probably would only use for the initial foundation. I would probably use 3.7 for refinements. So yeah, for the very initial foundation, I would use one of these two. Then after that, this would be my default when I need a good model, and this would be my default when I am doing something pretty easy and I want to save money. I would not use these. So that's my takeaways. And thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or thoughts, let me know.